complete line of BMWs at your BMW Center. And BF Goodrich Tires. Take control.
Welcome back to Pikes Peak International Raceway. The car is ready on the starting grid. We had a great race at Vancouver. For one team in particular, they've seen a great increase in performance as the season's unfolded. They're the focus of our manufacturer spotlight. Let's go down to John Bizignano.
Today in the spotlight is Paul Brown with his beautiful Saleen Mustang. Paul, let's get right to the heart of the matter. The motor, it looks like somewhat of a stock 351, but how much can you modify it?
We're allowed to put on aftermarket aluminum heads through trick flow, a 390 carburetor, and the cam is a 550 lift as a specification for the class.
Looking at this front suspension, nothing looks stock to me.
Now this is a double A-arm, which is a short long arm suspension kit that bolts directly to the factory Ford subframe. We're using Alcon rotors and brakes on it with dynamic shocks and Ibach springs.
Now, you told me a little bit earlier that the gearbox is from a Mustang Cobra, and the drivetrain is pretty much stock.
Yeah, everything we're running are off-the-shelf Ford Motorsport or Saleen Performance parts. We're using a Tremec 5-speed and a Ford 9-inch rear end.
Beautiful body work, but does it work when it goes racing?
So far, what we found out is it's got a little more aerodynamics. Saleen's gone back with the wide body to make the car smoother and have more downforce to try to keep up with the Porsches and Vipers.
Now, how available are all these high-performance parts to the consumer?
All these parts are on the shelf ready to go through either Saleen Performance or Ford Racing technology, and they will bolt on any Mustang that's out there.
Thanks very much, Biz. Indeed, a great story for Paul Brown. Let's take you now right to our BMW starting grid. On the front row, John Heinrichsey on the pole after a third at West Michigan, driving the Rowley's Pennzoil C5 Corvette alongside Bill Cooper in another Corvette sponsored by Les Stanford. Row number 2, Peter Kitchak in the Keewaydin Porsche and Reese Cox in the MGI Corvette C5. Row 3, George Biscup having a good run in his Control Solutions Porsche, and a troubled Bobby Archer in the Viper Speed Dodge Viper. Row 4, 5-time Le Mans winner, our Legends driver Derek Bell in the BMW M Coupe, and Dave Sharp in the Toyota Supra Turbo from Toyota Racing Developments. Row number 5, Paul Brown, who we just talked about in the HP Motorsports Mustang, and Scott Nolenberg in the B&D Components Market Sport Porsche. Row number 6, Dan Kellermeyer in the Rowley's Pennzoil C5 Vet, and Sean Rowe in the Rowe Racing Viper. Row number 7 is Terry Lackey in the Corvettes of Houston Corvette, and Jeff Dimitri in the HP Motorsports Saleen Mustang. Row number 8, Pat DiGiovanni in the On the Edge Performance Porsche, and Robert Finlayson on the Herbal Weight Loss Vet Editions Corvette. Row number 9, Kelly Bradley in the Team Corvettes of Houston Corvette, and is Bruce Kalin in the Viper Speed Dodge Viper. Row number 10, Jim Oppenheimer in the Impact Toad Hall Racing Porsche, and Cole Vanderwarden, who we haven't seen much of lately, out of Greeley, Colorado in the Coes Racing BMW. Row number 11 is Walt Swick in the Techmark Corporation BMW, and Walt Dethier in the Program Motorsports Mustang. And row number 12, an interesting story, Mark Dixon in the Herbert Motors Incorporated Pontiac Firebird, but starting next to him, he actually set a very quick time in qualifying. Scotty White will be starting dead last in the Tom Henry Chev Corvette. And with more on that, let's go down to John Bizignano.
Well, Scotty B. White, he actually had the 8th fastest time in qualifying, but there was an infraction on his motor. He was running too high of a compression ratio, so they moved him right to the back. Look for him coming through this field throughout the race. Let's go to another update and with Calvin Fish.
Well, some of the drivers are very concerned about going side by side through the bank turn, heading down into turn 1, but one driver who may have the leg up on the competition is Derek Bell. Not so much his Le Mans experience, but he's done 11 IROC races. He really feels he has an advantage going side by side through there. Let's look for that in the early going.
And it's interesting, Derek said that in some of the earlier races, the car got off the corners very well. The problem was high-speed corners, but now they have the addition of that wing. And, of course, Dorsey, with the infield section, that car should be very strong.
Of course, most of these cars set up to run on the banking. That's why they're going to be a bit tenuous at the beginning. The tires, the temperatures aren't very high because we said it was very cold outside, but the pressure buildup is what's of most concern. If they go into turn 1 really hard on the first lap and the right side tires aren't up to pressure yet, they could actually start inducing a lot of heat on the sidewall, and that is something you definitely don't want to do.
Now, this time they are going all the way around the oval to be able to maintain formation. The pace car down in the warm-up lane. Lights are out. Look for it to move into the pits. And then it will be John Heinrichsey pacing the field for the start of 45 laps of World Challenge GT competition, second to the last race of this championship season. And the points players are back in the pack a little bit. Watch for Archer. That launch of that V10 could be very strong here, Dorsey. Side by side. Great formation. We're green. We are green. There's Heinrichsey Cooper. And Archer gets a pretty strong jump. He's going up high. Paul Brown dives way down to the inside, 3 abreast.
Porsche on the inside, though, is going to have superior braking down into this very hard hairpin.
Still side by side up front, too, and it's Heinrichs into turn 4. Then Cooper, then it's Kitchak, and Archer runs a little wide through that corner, but he holds onto it. But as you said, the Porsche owns the braking zones.
Yeah, he's going to be good at that part of the track, and it would be really good for Peter if he could get in the lead on this infield, because I think he would be stronger than these guys here. When they get up on this banking, these 2 Corvette guys, if they work together in a draft, are going to be tough to beat.
And Reese Cox pressuring Archer as well in that battle for 4th and 5th. It's Heinrichs, then Cooper, the purple and yellow vet, then the black Porsche of Kitchak, Archer, Reese Cox, and then Dave Shart in the turbo. A little bit of a surprise that turbo engine here at this elevation hasn't been giving that car a little bit more performance.
Well, they must be out there on the handling off, because you're right, the turbocharged car does not lose any power up here at the 6,000 feet level. These normally aspirated cars, on the other hand, are down about 10% of what the horsepower they would put out at sea level.
Cooper taking a run at Heinrichs as they come off the banking. But Heinrichs, well, he actually did give him a little room. Cooper's going to try it down the inside. Cooper, the left Stanford Corvette, slides to the lead. Heinrichs going to protect now. But look at Kitchak, tries to counterpass underneath Heinrichs and get a little bit later apex. Couldn't do it. Heinrichs trying to move back on Cooper, not that time.
I was about to say that Heinrichs was pretty smart, just said it's too early in the race to be doing this, but then he tried that counter move right down there, so maybe he's feeling quite racy after all.
Working the curbs pretty good as they get into the S's of this track here. Go back just a little bit. There is Kitchak running in 3rd. Archer right behind. They've opened up a little bit of ground to Reese Cox. There is Shart in the Toyota as they climb out of the final turn and up onto the banking. Obviously, Cooper runs 5th in the championship. He could make up some ground, but he would need a miracle to move up in any kind of battle for the lead. We're really going to be concerned with that battle for 3rd and 4th. And there's a good look. But look at this. Cooper looks like he may be having a problem. Heinrichs streams by. Kitchak, if he can get that nose inside of Heinrichs into the braking zone, there he goes. He locks it up, but wow, did he make a sweet pass.
I think Cooper must have gotten in a little trouble there up on the banking. Had to check up for a minute. I saw that the Corvette was way up high on the racetrack. He didn't have a lot of speed. Everybody got underneath him pretty cleanly there. Kitchak now with lead in the infield. This is what he wanted.
He wanted to get to the front and then be able to stretch it on the infield. He's doing that. Heinrichs trying to come back at him, but Heinrichs' mirror is filled with blue, and that's Archer in that Viper, and Cooper's now holding up Cox and dropping back just a little bit. The question now is going to be Kitchak up onto the banking, and look at Heinrichs drop a little lower, trying to get a launch, and just an awesome run up front right now by Kitchak. Cooper struggling, Calvin.
He really is, Greg. He has a power steering failure, but the car has really slowed down. I see a lot of smoke from the right-hand side of the car, so he may have an additional problem with that C5 Corvette. Big problems for that team early in the going.
Yeah, he is struggling out there. There is a good look at Reese Cox and Shart, and Cooper not even yet into the frame. He is really slow up on the banking of the track, apparently, and that is causing some problems for him. There he is. Way off the pace. That's much worse than just power steering. It looks like he's going to come around right into the pits.
Yeah, he's going to go around. When you lose power steering on a banking with the artificial loading that the banking causes, it's impossible to drive the car.
Tough break for Bill Cooper, as I said, 5th in the points, but that Les Stanford Chevy Corvette has really been showing some great performance, but problems for Cooper. And he dropped down right in front of the leaders, and Cooper has made it down into pit lane as the leaders go flashing by. Kitchak out front, but Calvin Fish is with Cooper as he makes his way into the pits.
Bill Cooper slowly comes down pit lane. The crew is not really hurrying here. They know that there's a belt that's come off underneath the car. We actually saw it down on the track as the cars went down into turn 1. I'm going to try and have a quick word here with Bill. Bill, what's the problem?
I'm sure we threw the main belt off. I lost power steering, and I'm sure we threw the belt off. You can have a look. Oh, it's overheating.
Okay, so the concern is they're going to overheat this engine. The crew is now looking underneath the hood. They're trying to see if they can make a quick fix, but losing laps under green flag racing.
That is a tough break for Cooper, and obviously, Dorsey, that main belt creating more problems than just power steering.
Well, he's talking about a serpentine belt, which you see on these nowadays. The new cars all have these serpentine belts that run everything. Bad news is when it breaks, everything's out.
As you take a look at the full field rundown after 4 of 45 laps complete, and right now Peter Kitchak leads doing exactly what he wanted to do. Heinrichs second, Bobby Archer third, Reese Cox and Dave Shart round out your top 5. Lots of racing yet to go. Welcome back to Pikes Peak International Raceway, and Peter Kitchak in the Keewaydin Toad Hall Porsche has opened up a bit of a margin. The battle for second is simply awesome. That is John Heinrichs in the yellow Corvette, and right behind him is Bobby Archer in the Viper, and this battle has huge implications on the points cal.
It really does, and Peter Kitchak's goals coming into this weekend were trying to get as many bonus points as he possibly can. He failed to capture the pole. The good news was, though, that Archer was outside the top 5, so he gained a point there. Right now his goal is to lead as many laps he can, get those 2 bonus points, and more importantly, not to let Archer out front so he can capture a point.
And that's been really a factor in some of these races, Dorsey. We have seen these bonus points. When you've got a championship that is only 8 points separating first and second, a lot of that can be really put right down 2 bonus points.
Absolutely, and of course we're talking about getting a point for leading a lap, getting more points for leading all of the laps, or most of the laps, led, and pole position. Now there's Archer, taking a look at him real close. If he could get a point by getting in the lead, that would tie him back up with Kitchak, but right now he's got a handful of John Heinrichs.
He does, but interestingly, Bobby Archer ran almost a second faster in the morning warm-up. Then he qualified. Only a couple other drivers were marginally quicker than they qualified, so there was some solution found for Archer's car. But I noticed here it is not getting out of that last turn and up onto the banking very well, and that's playing nicely into Heinrichs' hands.
Oh, you're right. We noticed a lot of the cars were quicker actually this morning in their very cold session than what it was in qualifying, and that could be because of the very, very cold. There's Derek Bell right now. He's having a battle on his own right. In 7th place, you're looking right there.
Derek Bell chasing Terry Lackey in the Corvettes of Houston entry. And, of course, the strong suit for this BMW M3 Coupe is the infield, although it does run a supercharged engine. And he said it makes pretty good power. The nice thing about it, as opposed to a turbocharged car, is with the supercharger, it has instant-on power in the infield, and it's really a pleasure to drive.
Yeah, a supercharger drives off the crankshaft, so when the engine's turning, it's making power, whereas a turbocharger drives off the exhaust. You have to first open the throttle and create exhaust pressure before the turbo can spin up and make boost.
And you can see he immediately closes right up on Lackey on the infield. The only place that Derek is lacking a little bit is up on the banking, where it's just pure grunt and horsepower. Look at this move here as Bell looking inside, looking outside, looking inside on the exit. If nothing else, Dorsey, as you put it so eloquently when you were driving at Mosport, he's trying to aggravate him.
Yeah, I mean, he would like to get by in there because they're a lot faster. Obviously, you can see how much faster the BMW was, but there's not a lot of room to pass down there in that very tight infield. And look at the Corvette stretch its legs once it gets up on the banking here.
Watch for this here. We're going to go back a little bit further in the pack to the battle for 9th and 10th. That's Paul Brown, who we talked about earlier, currently in the 10th spot. Right behind him now is Scotty White coming on. But Paul Brown, he's running the new Celine bodywork and doing a nice job. And here comes Derek. He stayed close enough on the binders down the inside into turn 4, and he got it done, Dorsey, and that was because he was able to stay close enough.
Now watch Derek here. He'll be able to open up on the Corvette as long as that BMW in front of him doesn't hold him up. He's going to fall prey to the big horsepower.
Right there, he opens up a quick 2 lengths, but he is going to catch that BMW before he's able to really stretch the legs up onto the banking, and he had to brake. Now he went down underneath, got the door shut on him, and that's going to kill his launch. Oh, very close there as well. And Lackey's just going to roll into the power and see what he could do, but Derek was able to actually get through there better than I thought he would.
Now, Derek knows some mobile stuff, so if he'll start down the hill right here. He goes right now. He's going to go for the bottom of the racetrack early. One thing that you want to do on the oval is get the car on the trajectory you want it to run on. Bottom lane is this case, and you want to get it there early so that you free the car up, and he did a real good job there, and it held off the Corvette.
So while Derek Bell having a good run, a better one being had by Peter Kitchak as he leads, and he leads by a pretty healthy margin, almost a second and a half over John Heinrichs. Peter Kitchak continues to lead at a cloudy and cold Pikes Peak International Raceway, 13 of 45 laps complete. And he really has been able to, I think the thing here, Dorsey, is he's working traffic exceptionally well. There's the gap back to John Heinrichs in that C5 Corvette, who is having a very solid run. He just can't do anything with Kitchak right now. Then there comes Archer, who dropped back, but is starting to close it back up again a little bit in that Viper speed machine. Of course, the points battle,
Ooh.
Archer leads it.
Big wiggle by the Archer.
Yeah,
right in the middle of the banking. He got loose there. That was something I talked to him earlier in the week, that he was very worried about this Viper right in the center of the corner getting loose on the banking.
Well, because of the speed, it's carrying a lot of weight. And, of course, we should probably explain this championship, if you haven't followed it the whole year, they have a thing called rewards weight. And if you finish in the top 5, they add some weight to the car up to 105% of the car's weight. So it's a fairly heavy car right now, and that doesn't help on that banking. Great battle for 10th. We're going to now Paul Brown and Scotty White. Of course, Scotty won at Vancouver, and Paul Brown was right in front of him, or right behind him with a strong second-place finish. And there's Paul Brown protecting. He knows Scotty White is awfully racy right now, and he ran a little wide. Scotty's trying to cut underneath. He's got to get a good launch off that. He has to be in front of him by the time he gets to the next corner, Doris, and there's traffic there as well.
Well, luckily Brown's on the right side of the racetrack to make this corner here, because as he comes off here, he should get the lead back again. Oh, the Corvette loose on the outside there. That does make it go back toward the Brown car. But I tell you what, Scotty B. White, all the way in the back of the pack at the beginning, is coming up to you right now.
And you know, that yellow Porsche right behind them, that is the car that's also in that battle, Scott Nolenberg, the B&D Components Market Sports Porsche. The three of them having a very strong race right now. And I think Nolenberg's pretty quick, but every time he's thinking about something, those two guys end up going side by side. Nice move there by Scotty White as he went low early. And does that help, Doris, as you drop down into the bowl, if you will, to help momentum?
No, actually it cost him a little bit. He turned down there a little bit too early, and what will happen is in the center of the corner is it will push up on him. He'd have to get out of the throttle or push up. And he saw that Brown had a better run off the corner because of it, but he loses ground here in the brake zone.
Looked like Brown very unsettled over the transition off the oval into the infield. And the car a little slew sideways under braking, but he held on to it. Battle in front of them, you see Terry Lackey right there and Don Kellermeyer. That's the team car to Heinrich.
One thing about it, if you got understeer, if the car's pushing on the infield, you can get up on those curbs and break the back end free. I don't know if that's the case in these guys, that they're just using on the road. But here comes Scotty B. White up beside Brown.
Boy, he got a great launch off the turn. They are absolutely dead heat at start-finish. Actually, there goes White, noses ahead just a little bit. And they go diving underneath Kellermeyer, who got caught out. He had a problem. I think he had a big bobble coming up onto the banking, and that's allowed both of those guys to go by, and that lets Terry Lackey out front open up a bit of a margin.
Scotty did a lot better turn that time. He got down to the banking, so they're not turning down so early. He led into the corner down low, and he got a good rim shot through the bottom of the roll.
He went way inside going into the turn there, but it paid off as he is able to still hang on in front of Paul Brown. They are both now reeling in Lackey very quickly once again. And also I noticed that Nolenberg got by Kellermeyer as well.
Good dicey stuff going on here in the infield. I got to tell you, it's real slippery in there because these cars are set up with a lot of stagger or bias to the one side to keep them really fast on the oval. So when you get down here in the infield, they're a bit dicey.
And remember, we've talked about the conditions in terms of temperature, and that track nowhere near as warm as they'd like. But look at this. Kitchak leads, but Heinrich has closed that margin back up again, and Peter Kitchak may be starting to feel a little bit of heat. And his concern is if Heinrich is marginally close as they come back up onto the banking in the oval, that's where he can run. Bill Cooper is back out. You just caught a glimpse of him, but of course he is lapped back.
One thing I've learned about Peter Kitchak, he's shown me this year, is that he's a very smart driver. I suspect what he's doing is saving all the Porsche he can, leading this by the least margin possible.
Has to be a little bit of a help for him to have that engine right on those rear tires, help build a little heat. That always helps the launch off the corners. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Pikes Peak, and John Heinrich has caught Peter Kitchak and is starting to apply some pressure. They are catching some traffic. That is not Bobby Archer in front. That's teammate Bruce Kalin. But it is going to be a bit of a moment here for Kitchak as he needs momentum. And Kalin, a nice job, moves way off line, lets the two leaders come through. But this is as close as Heinrich has been, Dorsey, when they have come up onto the banking, and this is where the vet should have the advantage. And here he goes.
I think Kitchak's going to have some problem here. I don't know. I thought before he was just slowing down to save his car, but I'm not thinking so anymore. I think that car's falling off pace a little bit. Heinrich coming on very strong right now.
Heinrich off of the second turn, the exit of the banking, and now we'll see what happens. They make the dive through the kink down into turn 4 and under braking, and Heinrich actually closing up a little bit under braking. I wonder if Kitchak might not be experiencing brake problems.
Well, he's closed up like that for the last 3 laps in a row, and that is unusual. Paul Brown has spun his Mustang. The Celine Mustang's going the wrong way over there. Celine working hard on the inside of Kitchak. I think you might be on to something there, Greg, with the brake situation.
Let's go down to John Bizignano. Any information, John?
Well, Dorsey, you said earlier that Kitchak's a very smart driver, and his crew says right now there is not a problem with the car whatsoever. He's only driving just fast enough to stay ahead. He's trying to save the car for the final lap. Now, Bobby Archer, you also mentioned that he was falling a bit off. Dorsey, he thinks there's something wrong in the...
Well, you're right about that. You don't want something in the suspension if he's hearing something. If something breaks on that banking on the high load, you have a very big accident looking right in the face. But he wants points is the only reason he's staying out there. He's going to just risk it all to get what he can get.
Well, he's right in the middle of that points championship, and if he pits, he's done. There is no question of that. There is Reese Cox in the number 98. That's the C5 vet. Reese having a very strong run. Right behind him is George Biskup, the rookie, who is so impressive early in the season. Things tailed off for him a little bit mid-season, but he's taking a run. Not close enough.
A little bit optimistic, but the Porsche should be better here. Corvette's out wide. Watch Biskup's going to try to run up the inside. I don't think he's close enough to do it, though. But watching the brake zone here, I think Biskup will be real aggressive with Cox.
That Control Solutions Porsche really applying the pressure to Reese Cox. That is the battle for fifth. Cox has it, and Biskup wants it. And the two of them now into the S's section of the infield. And you can see a little bit more of the use of the curves even by Biskup. He's being very aggressive. Apparently, we get a report Walt Dethier is smoking out on track as well, driving one of the Mustangs, the Program Motorsports Mustang Cobra. And there he is. Walt Dethier has pulled off. Looks like his day's done.
Yeah, that smoke was probably something that's terminal when he's pulled the Mustang off the side of the road into a safe place. It probably will not bring out a caution.
Meanwhile, we go back to that battle between Reese Cox and George Biskup, and it has been like this for a number of laps. Very cat and mouse. Biskup getting a strong run here. And he does make the dive, and he's got him.
Yeah, he got him good that time. He had a good run going, stuck it in there very soundly. Now he has to open up the gap, though, before he gets to the straightaway, because obviously Corvette gets loose, almost tags him with the back of the car, side by side into the next corner.
Boy, if the vet wouldn't have got the back end broken loose, he may have been able to get enough launch to sneak around him, but I think that hurt.
If I were Cox, I'd just wait a little more. You know, I wouldn't push it in these corners. You're just wearing your tires out for no good reason. Just stay where you are. Run that straightaway, man.
Yeah, use to your advantage what your strong suit is, and it's the horsepower of that vet. But Biskup opened up 3-4 lengths before they got there.
Yeah, he did. He did a good job coming off that corner. The Corvette would be more prone to wheel spin there. Corvette, you know, having a lot of power. Here he comes, though, down looking the lower line. I don't think Biskup will give him that. No.
Biskup ran one to me, and you're the oval expert, certainly, Darcy, but looked like a beautiful line through those two corners.
Yeah, he did. He started in the middle and dropped it down low, got a good run off that, and he'll hold it down. And this is a strong point, obviously, right down here in this brake zone.
If he can clear this corner and really keep his momentum up, that's just what he needs to sort of break the grip that Reese Cox has from behind and see if he can't get a bigger margin built up and solidify his hold on fifth. That is now fifth for Biskup, with Reese Cox running now in the sixth spot. And George Biskup looking very impressive here in the early going. We have 27 laps now of 45 complete, so we are just past halfway. And Peter Kitchak continues to lead. He stretched it back out to over a second over John Heinrichs. A bit of clarification is in order. We've mentioned before that car parked right there was Paul Brown. It's not. That's the team car of Jeff Dimitri. Paul Brown continues to run quite competitively, running in a great battle for 10th. And Dorsey behind it, that is not a race car up on the banking either.
No, he's not back in the wall up there. That's the emergency vehicle. That's Rescue 1, which is in readiness in case we have a big accident. But it's been in that frame, so I'd like to explain that he's not a participant. He's just waiting.
Yeah, it's a heck of a program. The driver is a top-flight paramedic, and in the passenger seat is one of the world's best trauma physicians, Dr. Ron Chrome. Nice to have that kind of care on the track. And Peter Kitchak has opened that margin over Heinrichs back up again, and we got that report from John Bizignano, Dorsey, about Kitchak just driving as slow a pace as he could and still hang on to the lead. That margin now is up to almost 2 seconds, so he looks to have things pretty well under control. There is Bill Cooper, who has been in and out of the pits a number of times. Every time he comes out, he ends up back in the pits. There's something broken. There is Archer.
I just saw a lot of flame on Archer's car coming out well before the corner, which means he's having to get out of the throttle way before that corner. We saw it wiggle early in the middle part of the race. We saw a big wiggle in the middle of that corner. Archer now lifting soundly way before the corner, so his car not happy on the banking. Here comes Shard. That's your fourth place car.
There is Dave Shard, and of course running the TRD Toyota Racing Development's Supra Turbo, and he's having one of his better runs, Cal.
Now
really is, Greg. He's come up from 9th on the grid all the way up to 4th. They've had a troublesome weekend. They had problems in practice. The flywheel fell off the engine. They lost the first 2 sessions, went into qualifying, then realizing they had a turbo boost problem. The engine should produce 15 pounds of boost. It kept bleeding itself off, losing valuable horsepower. We really thought that Toyota suit would be strong around here this weekend. So they're into this race with a couple of sessions down, Dorsey, and that really just hurts you. You're always playing catch-up.
Yeah, that's for sure. And one thing about this Toyota is it makes a lot of horsepower, but that horsepower doesn't help you if you don't have the sessions to make the thing handle just as well.
Well, that explains something, too, with that loss of power with the pressure problem, why this car, along with Bobby Archer, were noticeably quicker in the morning warm-up than they were in qualifying. Everybody was maybe a little bit quicker, but they were quicker by large chunks, and that might explain it. And Dave Shart, as I said, having a very impressive run. Now we go back to the lead, Peter Kitchak, and then there's a lap car, and then right behind him is Heinersee, and again, traffic doing an awesome job here, Dorsey, when they see the blue flags from the corner workers to get out of the way and let the leaders through.
Well, I think when John Bizignano went down there and talked to Kitchak's crew about the fact that Heinersee was catching up, they just told him on the radio, he says, well, Dorsey up there thinks that you're slowing down, so just to prove me wrong, look what he's done. He just goes ahead and outruns him.
Well, you can't ever have the expert commentator be right.
That's right, so now, doggone you, Peter.
Meanwhile, we continue to watch that battle as they head down into turn 4, and Peter Kitchak is, in fact, drawn away again, Cal.
He is, and he was very confident that if we had green flag racing, meaning not many cautions, that's when this Porsche would really come into its own. It really handles well, and they really worked hard at doing long runs, 25, 30 laps in practice to really try and see which way the tires would go, which way the balance of the race car would go, and he felt that they'd have a strong car towards the end of the race.
Oh, we have a big spin. Right there was Kelly Bradley in the 02 Corvette's from Houston Corvette. He mutilated a cone and then decided to get rid of it and is back underway.
Yeah, Conan there just got spit right out the back of that bat. He's had a spin out there. I don't think it's not done any harm. We'll take a look at it. What's happened to him here?
Here's the replay, Dorsey, and just looks like he was a little wide.
Just out there wide, and he's on the outside. It's a little bit marbly out there. He's got the rear tires locked up. That's going to turn the car in, and it's something he probably doesn't want to do. It's now in the marbles soundly. Round it goes. That's the cone. Gathers it up. Luckily, nothing to hit there. And that cone's underneath there, and when he gets going again, of course, it's going to throw it right out in the middle of the racetrack for all the rest of the people to run over.
That's right. Well, if you're a little obstacle out there, that's one of the things about this facility, except for the oval turns 1 and 2, where, of course, it's the wall on the outside. Generally here, there is tons of runoff.
Now, in the no-fear type of racing that we used to do, we always did it like golf. You'd play it where you live, so you got to go around the cone on the outside. Oh, look out, there's big. Oh, boy, I tell you what, Kitchak almost got caught up in traffic that time. Made the wrong move, and luckily got it right back.
He noticed at the last second that he'd gone the wrong way and dove back to the inside, and Heinersee was heading into that gap. There was no question.
Yeah, he was taking a look to get in there, too. Both those guys did a real good job. But that was one of those, momentary decisions you make. He made a decision, moved, and it was the wrong way initially, but quick hands, quick thinking got him out of that trouble. Going there, and he sees right now, no, he's closing the door, so he has to get on the brakes. Now, Heinersee is trying to come up the inside, but I'll tell you what, John let that happen. John could have been real bullheaded about that, and he let it all happen.
Yeah, he gave him a little room, but I think that may have been a wake-up call to Peter Kitchak, because Heinersee close enough to take advantage of an opportunity. Maybe it's time to pick up the pace just a little bit. We'll see if Peter Kitchak is able to stretch the Porsche's legs just a little bit, open things back up. 34 of 45 laps are done. Back at Pikes Peak, and traffic again a factor. That's Mark Dixon sort of in a leader sandwich right there, and he almost came down on Peter Kitchak, realized he was there, let him through, then held up John Heinersee. Noticed Heinersee was behind him, immediately got out of the way, but for a second looked like Heinersee might get a gift, but then traffic giveth, traffic taketh away, and Heinersee's back again.
Well, that's twice in as many laps. The Kitchak really dodged a bullet on this lap traffic business.
And Paul Brown has stopped down in the pits.
He has a problem with the left front. They believe they got a puncher there. I think he got into someone. The rim was actually chewed up a little bit. Remember, he led in the early laps of Vancouver. Had another good run going here today in the top 10, but this is going to lose him a lot of time. No caution flags today, guys, and these pit stops under green flags are critical.
Oh, they're huge. You can lose a lap in a hurry. Remember, this track is only 1.3 miles in length. These cars are getting around it very quick.
I'll tell you what, putting one tire on, too. Now, he's got 3 warm tires. It's a cold day. That one cold tire is really going to upset that car when he gets back on the racetrack.
Looks like work near complete, and they'll be sending him out shortly. There is Kitchak. Heinrichsen giving chase. Question, I mentioned it briefly, Dorsey, but I wanted to get back to it a little bit. With the cold temperatures today, although we are now getting a break in the clouds and some sun, it's going to help beat down on his track and warm things up just a little bit. That Porsche with the engine overhanging the drive wheels in the back, that extra weight back there, is that really going to be a help to get temps in those tires and get him out of corner?
It helps the rear, but it doesn't help his fronts. Of course, the Porsche would like to understeer quite a bit, but I think right now that they've run enough green flag laps, you know, that's good today that they haven't had a lot of cautions, and then those tires, once they're up to operating temperatures, they'll sustain that quite easily.
Remarkable story. Peter Kitchak, that car started life back in the old IMSA championship, running in the GT2 division it was in the late 70s when that car was there. He got a hold of it, did a little IMSA racing, then went vintage racing with it, then they decided to come World Challenge Racing, rebuilt it, and it is absolutely flat competitive. There is Bobby Archer, continues to run third, but the story, Dorsey, is he's 20 seconds now behind Heinrichsen.
Yeah, I think that car is pretty much used up, and he's got to watch out now because that yellow car behind him is David Sharp in that turbo, and he is making up ground, and that's the battle for fourth place on the racetrack.
George Biskup is fifth, but he's a bit behind, about 5 seconds adrift of Sharp. And so Dave Sharp, all he has to worry about right now is putting his head down and maybe trying to run down and catch Bobby Archer. There's the lap car. Here comes Biskup and the Control Solutions Porsche, and he's got a fairly good margin he's built up. Once he got around Reese Cox, his margin over Reese is something on the order of about 5 seconds as well. So George Biskup having a very strong race.
I think Reese was actually holding him up on the infield. Once he was by that, he could make up the ground he was losing, and open his 5-second lead up. Now that's also a battle. That's a sixth-place car right now. They're right in front of him, not too far in front of Miss Sharp, and in front of that, of course, we were talking about the fact that Archer's there, and Archer, I think, is experiencing a little bit
braking very early going into one. We're talking about Bobby Archer, and that's obviously the car just not handling. Biskup looking very strong, but best of all, it's Peter Kitchak, who continues to run very impressively here on the banking at Pikes Peak International Raceway. We'll be back with the finish. Welcome back to Pikes Peak International Raceway. We are well within our final 5 laps. Peter Kitchak continues to lead. Heinrichsen second, Archer third, and that is not Archer, by the way. Wanted to let you know on that. That's his team car. But just to throw a little interest out there for you, if it were to finish as it sits now, Dorsey, Kitchak would be trailing Archer by 1 point, and that would be mission accomplished.
And Peter Kitchak said this is what he wanted to do. He wanted to lead the most laps, which he has done. He wanted to keep Archer from leading a lap, which he has done. The only thing he didn't get a pole, but then on the other hand, Archer didn't qualify in the top 5, so he didn't get the point. So this is a maximum point situation if Peter Kitchak can complete the next 3 laps in the lead.
And we have seen Kitchak a number of times allow, it appears, and the key word there is allow, Heinrichsen to close up, and then he just opens it up a little bit and motors away just a tad. But hey, all this has huge implications, Dorsey. If by chance Sharp were to get by and Archer were to finish 4th, then Kitchak would leave here with the points lead. So Archer's aware of that, believe me.
And Archer just left twin skid marks coming out of the corner up onto the banking, meaning the rear tires are giving up on that. The Toyota, on the other hand, looks pretty good still. And I think with 3 laps to go, there's the exhaust coming out. 3 laps to go, I think Mr. Archer's in trouble.
And again, a lot of brake light going into turn 1 from Archer. Now, here comes Sharp. That turbo spooling up. He's right there. Big wiggle from Archer as he tried to stay low and protect. Sharp going to try the outside, and he might just do it. Floats out a little bit too wide there.
You got to watch the outside of Archer when you know he's loose, because he's going to try to keep you from going by. If he gets loose, he's going to come into your side. That's what you want to do right there. Get to the inside of a loose car if you can.
Get to the inside of the loose car, but Calvin Archer is struggling.
He is struggling, Greg. They've struggled with the car all weekend. He said he'd get into those bank turns, and the car would just suddenly step out away from him. Same on the infield. They were scratching their heads before the race. They put a new differential in the car in the hope that it would cure the problem. But as you can see, still big problems on the Viper.
They are coming around. The leaders have completed 43 of 45, so 2 laps to go. And here goes Sharp. He is inside. He is down inside, and he is by the Viper of Bobby Archer, and that has huge implications on this championship.
Nothing Archer could do about that. His car's way too loose to try to contest. If he tries to contest, he could crash the car. That would really kill him, but this is going to hurt him anyway.
Oh, and look at the nice move by Bill Cooper. He knows this is a huge battle, not just for position, but for points. He complete race to finish this way. As we now start our final lap, Kitchak would leave leave here with the championship, and what a remarkable turnaround that would be for him.
Yeah, he's done a great job all day. I think he's truly in command of this race, no question about it. But not here. I'll tell you what, this is a good race going on back there. That is the battle. We just saw Archer get past, of course, and right behind him is Cooper, who's not a contender right now.
But you know what? Biscup not that far back either as they come up to take the white flag. And if Archer really is struggling, that could be interesting. There they are. They are on the last lap. Shart and Archer, third and fourth. And Dave Shart having an awesome run here. Meanwhile, here we come to the finish, and Heinrichsey at least making it look close here, and there is traffic.
We got traffic in the way, and that could be the big spoiler here. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be that. You don't want to make a mistake right now. Peter Kitchak has got to get off this last corner. He's going to the outside. That's the right move.
He's going outside, but let's see. Heinrichsey, lots of V8 power there. Brown coming up, but Kitchak is going to hang on, and Kitchak gets another win. Heinrichsey second. An elated crew, of course. Now let's watch for that battle for third, and Shart still has the margin over Archer. And there is Biscup, who is closing in. I don't think it's enough, but Shart now is going to have traffic as well, and it blocks him. It bottles him up just a little bit. Shart lost some momentum there, but I think he's got enough of a lead, and he is going to be able to duck underneath.
Look at the Viper come out of the bottom, complete fishtail slide. 200 foot of rubber laid down there. No grip with the Viper today.
Bobby Archer doing everything he could, but Dave Shart in the Toyota just enough, and takes third away. And again, unofficially, that should give Peter Kitchak the points lead. There is John Heinrichsey, who had a great race and has really shown what the C5 is all about. And Derek Bell, who survived an intense battle with Scotty White and others, comes around and takes 7th place. And again, welcome back to the World Challenge for Derek Bell. Peter Kitchak takes another win, and the momentum from Minneapolis continues.
The sun finally comes out at Pikes Peak International Raceway as Peter Kitchak captures his 5th victory of the season, and with it takes the championship lead. What a run for you today, Peter.
Well, it was probably the toughest race that I've ever driven in my whole life. John was there all the time. Every time we'd get in traffic, he'd catch up a little bit. I thought the last lap, with 1 lap to go, I came up and the car wiggled a little bit. I had to come off the gas a little bit at the wall. But wow, what a race. Gee whiz, I've never really ever had one like this.
They had some goals this weekend. They look like they accomplished those, and the championship goes down to the wire.
Well, Calvin, another remarkable performance by Peter Kitchak. Let's take a look at our provisional results. It's Kitchak over John Heinrichsey. A great run by Dave Shart. Bobby Archer struggling to 4th, and George Biscup coming on strong in 5th. As you take a look at the rest of the provisional finishing order, Dorsey, obviously Kitchak very impressive, but John Heinrichsey and that C5 team, they didn't race for a while. They really concentrated on getting that program going, and it looks awfully impressive. Nonetheless, Bobby Archer struggled here, and he's with John Bizignano.
Bobby Archer, a rough weekend all weekend long with practice and qualifying. The race was...
Something broke going through the banking like lap 3 or 4, and I just, I was lucky to keep it off the wall, and, I pedaled as long as I could, and, I tried to keep the car in the race, but at the last, I was just hanging on. It was all over the place.
Hanging on and scared, guys. That can't be comfortable.
Thanks very much, John. And indeed, Archer got hurt in the points. Let's take a look at him. Kitchak now up by 1 over Bobby Archer. George Biscup in 3rd. 4th is Dave Shart with a great run here. And then 5th is Paul Brown. And this points championship going down to the wire in this last race, Dorsey.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be a war at one of the best racetracks, the nicest racetracks in North America, Laguna Seca. It's going to be a battle.
Well, there's your cue. Remember, the final race of this championship is Laguna Seca, California. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll have it for you right here on Speedvision. Please make sure you tune in and see how this remarkable championship unfolds here, not only at Pikes Peak, but at the final round at Laguna Seca. For Dorsey Schrader, Calvin Fish, John Bizignano, and Connie Willis, I'm Greg Kramer. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you from Laguna Seca. Take care, everybody.